What's up, wedding filmmakers? I'm Andrew, and this is Sasha, and today we are deep diving into the world of Dehancer, an awesome tool that could be a great add to your color grading kit. We're going to test it on a variety of wedding shots, so stick around to see how it transforms our footage. I want to give a big shout out to Dehancer for generously offering me a license to explore their product. I've been hearing rave reviews from so many talented colorists, and I'm super excited to give it a try. In this video, I'll be using Dehancer in Resolve, but their plugin works in Premiere and Final Cut. And let me tell you, if you are a photo video duo, Dehancer has your back on the photography side too, with awesome plugins for Lightroom, Photoshop, their own app, and an online tool that allows you to edit photos too. This means you can maintain stunning consistency between your galleries and films. Before we jump in, I want to share a bit about Dehancer and my thought process behind grading weddings. With the popularity of Super 8 and 16mm films skyrocketing in the wedding industry, it's clear that couples are drawn to that unique magic the film brings. It's that elusive soul that we all crave when capturing those precious moments. But how do we as digital filmmakers tap into that vibe? Well, that's where Dehancer shines. This amazing film emulation software perfectly replicates those beautiful analog qualities that we all love. Seriously, it's packed with incredible features that I'll touch on, and trust me, there's a lot to explore. If you want a deeper dive into the specific features, Dehancer's website is full of information. Now let's talk about my approach to grading a wedding film. I want to give couples an honest representation of their special day, the colors, the atmosphere, and especially skin tones, with sprinkling in just a touch of that dreamy film aesthetic that we all love. And Dehancer gives us that creative freedom to achieve this. Its powerful capabilities allow us to walk that fine line between film and reality. So without further ado, let's jump right into the grading process and see Dehancer in action. All right, you guys, so we are here inside of Resolve. I've added a lot of different types of clips to the timeline from different weddings. I just wanted to really test Dehancer on a bunch of different types of footage. And so to start with, I want to show you guys, I'm working, if we go down here to settings, color management, I'm working in Davinci YRGB color managed. This is just Resolve going ahead and doing an input and output color space for you. So whatever you shot your footage in, and then it's converting it to Rec 709. And we're actually going to be working in the Davinci wide gamut intermediate color space. And this is important because this is what we need to tell Dehancer that we are working in. So what I like to do with wedding films is I like to aim for an overall look. And the way that we do that is in groups. So we can Command A and right click. And I've already created a group for this. This is Dehancer, the Dehancer look group. All of them have been assigned. We can tell by this little green chain that's down here. But if we wanted to add them into a new group, we can just add in a new group. And groups are helpful because if you were to do a look on your timeline level, then you wouldn't have the flexibility to say, okay, maybe the look that is working really well for my exterior shots is not looking great on my interior reception stuff. Sorry, I'm on the timeline. I should be in clip. But it's not looking great on the interior reception stuff. All you'd have to do is you'd have to go here, right click, and then add this into a new group. For example, reception, we could just assign this to group. And then this is by itself and it's not affected by what's happening with these clips. So I just enjoy working that way. It allows a lot of flexibility. Like say maybe you want to do some black and white looks. Say you want to do something, maybe the contrast that was working here is not working here, and you just want to adjust that small thing, but you don't want it to affect your footage here. This is just a great way to do that is in groups. We're going to go back and assign this to our Dehancer look again, so everything's in the same group. And we're going to go to our group post clip level, and we're going to drag Dehancer onto a node. And the first two things that I'm going to do are I'm going to put this into the correct input source, which is going to be Davinci Wide Gamut Intermediate. And I'm going to turn my grain off. And that's just because I like working on my colors and my contrast first, and then working on my textural elements afterwards. So let's start. So this piece of Dehancer here, our input space, this would be great to use on a clip by clip basis. This is going to be great for if you have an overexposed clip, you want to adjust some white balance. I've already done that in my clip level here. This is just my preferred method of working, but you could do that here. Since we're working on an overall look, I'm not going to adjust this too much. So you can definitely use this. We're just going to skip this though. And here's where Dehancer really, really shines in its film profiles. There are so many profiles in here. And honestly, when I first downloaded Dehancer, I got pretty overwhelmed with all the different profiles. And so, yeah, but it's a lot of fun to go in, click through these profiles, see what works really well. They have some really beautiful black and white looks, which, we'll get to in a second. But we're going to kind of jump down here into the beloved Vision 3 series from Kodak. And again, we're going for something that feels natural, but with a slight look to it. And I really like the Vision 350D for that. So the other great thing about Dehancer is that it has these enabled check marks here that allows you to turn on and off specific sections. That's super helpful. And so we've enabled this. And another cool feature is that we can push and pull this by plus or minus 2 stops, which you see the colors kind of shifting, by doing this, and you can really kind of dial in the way that you want something to look, a certain film profile. I liked where it was at the, I liked where it was at the beginning here. And then we're going to jump down to our print, which is really cool. You get to grade your own print profile, which is awesome. I really love this Kodak glossy paper here. I think that it gives a nice pop and contrast. You do have your people love the 2383 print film. I've used this a couple times, this Fuji 3513, and enjoy it, but I keep coming back to glossy paper for some reason. And maybe we could tone down the contrast just a tiny bit. I think that's good. You can turn this on and off to kind of see how it's working, and I'm liking that contrast there. So we've got our profile added, we've got our print added, and I want to go in here and add some saturation because I want to use my color density in a second, and maybe we can look and see how this is going on all of our clips. I'm hitting Command D here to turn on and off this look, and I'm liking how this feels. But I want to use our color density here in a second. But I want to add some color, some saturation first before I do that. So I'm going to go to my film developer, and I'm just going to use my color boost here. I'm going to turn this up. Sometimes it's good to kind of like push it too far and then pull it back some. I think maybe like right in here feels kind of good. Okay, in here. So that feels good there. I don't really use film compression that often, but this is a great way to retain some highlight information. I kind of like my highlights to pop a little bit, and then I can always even like go in here to my expand, and I could like raise my white point some if I wanted to. But I tend to try to add some good contrast as far as our dark and our light sections, just because I think that it makes the image pop a little bit more, but that's just my personal opinion. And so, yeah, we've got our film profile going, we've got our print, and we've got some saturation going, so we can jump down here to our color density, and we can maybe boost this some to see what it's looking like. You can really see it in, the skin tones here. You do want to be careful to not go too far with color density. Sometimes I think it can make things look a little bit kind of garish, but it's a great way to, what it's basically doing is it's knocking down the luminance on your saturation. So it's creating a denser look there. And you can also do that, we're going here to our color head next actually, but you can also do this by in your color head, you can also knock down your preserve exposure. And as you're tweaking things in your color head, you'll see the image becoming a little bit more dense. And so let's just try playing around here with this. This basically is using I think a CYM color model. This is like I think it's a subtractive color model compared to where, like, I think working in red, green, and blue is an additive. So yeah, subtractive here, basically saying that like you're subtracting whatever color from the other color. And so I like to pull up my vector scopes when I'm doing this because you really can see where your image is starting to lean. So let's see, like right here, go ahead and widen this back up. We want to push things a little bit yellow. Maybe we can try playing with some red here. I definitely like to go through and click on my clips and see how things are feeling. And it really is just about dialing these things into taste. So yeah, I think that's looking okay there. We can enable and disable this. But you can see in our preserved exposure that if I were to have my preserved exposure over here on 100, and then I go back down to 0, you can see the change in luminance on the image. It's very slight, but that'll be a way that you can get some more density there too. So yeah, I'm liking the way that this is looking. If I turn this on and off, I mean, it's definitely adding a look to the image. I think it's looking very organic, and I like the color separation that it's adding to the footage. It's definitely adding a look here. It's very subtle, which is what I like to go for. I like to go for a little bit more of a subtle look. But you can definitely, the cool thing about Dehancer is you can really push this stuff. So yeah, this is looking great. It's good to kind of play things through. And so now we can start working on our texture elements. Going back into our grain and our halation and bloom. I'm mostly using these three right here. I don't use film damage, breath, and gate weave a whole ton. Really, I don't use them much at all. If I was really wanting to do like a harsh, creative look on something, maybe I would try those out, but it's just not something that I'm using currently. But we're going to jump back up in here to our grain. We're going to enable that. And starting off, this is just like, I do love grain. I'm not going to lie, I love grain. And I love how Dehancer does grain. It's reading the image and creating a grain based on that, instead of just having something like like a grain overlay just thrown on your footage that doesn't really feel like it fits very well. Dehancer is working like this, and I believe that, I don't know if you're into The Bear or not, the show, but I believe the colorist from The Bear uses Dehancer for their grain and stuff, so it's a really great product for creating textural looks and all that kind of stuff. So, but for weddings, what I like to do is I like to go here into the custom profile tab, and I'm just going to be honest, I just like to turn these things down to where we are getting such a slight grain happening. And just the reason why is because, I don't know, just me personally, I like adding that textural element of grain. But just because we can push it really hard doesn't mean we need to. And so I think that a little bit of grain, definitely, I'm going to loop my footage here. But, I think that a little bit of textural grain goes a long way, especially in a wedding film. That's just my personal opinion. So I think that looks good. Jumping down here to our halation. I really do love halation. I think everybody loves halation right now. And just in my opinion, a lot of halation looks really, really strong on an image. I love what Dehancers does. It really brings a nice warmth and kind of pop to the image. But I like to always, when I use halation, I like to actually try to find a shot with some, let's see here, for example, like I like to go up to people's faces, especially these, more contrasty parts of their face. And I like to try to dial in my halation to be very subtle. I don't want it to be overbearing just because I want it to feel like the wedding day, and I just want to add the slightest touch of texture to it. But this is doing some really beautiful things for skin tones. Yeah, it's bringing just a nice kind of reddish warmth to the image. Sorry if you can hear my dog outside. He's going crazy. But yeah, I really like that. This is, again, it just feels filmic adding this on. I don't even know if I can honestly explain it. I can't, okay, or I would. But this is feeling a little bit more filmic. Just having this halation turn on, it feels really nice. And then we have our bloom. Bloom is another thing that it is very beautiful. It's a very beautiful feature and tool, but it's something that I always like to turn on and kind of just tone down on my images. Let me see here. I always like to zoom in and kind of see what it's doing up close. This is giving a nice separation here. As far as like texturally, especially you can see around her like shoulder and stuff. Amazing. So we have this there. And so, yeah, I mean, this is like, I think, a really great look for a wedding film. Again, if we were turning this on and off, you can tell that it's doing a lot, but it's also being very subtle at the same time, which I love. And honestly, like, I think that working in this way really does help tie clips together really well. So I'm really liking that. I wanted to show a quick example. So say that, like, when we turn Dehancer on, you can kind of see that these drinks are going from a little bit more natural green to kind of a yellowish color. And something that I just try to keep in mind when I'm working on coloring is, I actually had a planner once say, are you guys one of those videographers that basically like put a preset on something and make everything look kind of the same color? And for some reason that's made me extremely self-conscious, like, ever since that day. And so I really like to go in and try to, if I can tell that like my overall look is really affecting something, like specifically these greens, something I like to do is go back into my clip level. I'll go here kind of earlier on in my node tree, and I'm going to, this is the new color slice tool in Resolve, which I really enjoy using. I'm going to, yeah, I figured it would be yellow. So we can kind of look and see here, like, where is our green sitting if we turn off our yellow sitting? It's going more towards green, as you can tell here. We turn it on, it's going more towards yellowish orange. And so what I want to do in my clip level is I want to grab this yellow here. And I actually want to pull this back down towards like a greenish color. We turn that on and off, you can see how much is happening. That way you keep your whole look, but you can actually adjust those colors to kind of start fitting back to where they were naturally. And so, that, you know, I'm not saying that the client would even remember what color this drink is, but say they do. And they're like, hey, I remember that drink being whatever color. You have the option to do that. And so that's why I like working with within the group level and then using my clip level to kind of do my fine-tune adjustments, exposure, and all that kind of stuff. So that's just one thing. The other thing that I do love about Dehancer is this overscan feature. And I really like the Ultra 16 look. So if we turn this on, it gives some nice border. It gives yeah, these overscans. You can do Super 8. Sorry, you guys, my QuickTime stopped recording me. But basically, I think overscans and this type of look is becoming very popular in the wedding film industry. Just because people are loving that film look, and yeah, you can really do a lot with these overscans. Are super cool. So yeah, there's an option there that you can definitely do. This is another cool thing that say that you wanted to have some overscans, and maybe you want to do that on a group level. You could also disable this, and maybe you could go to even your clip level. I'm just throwing this out there. You could go to your clip level, drag over Dehancer, put it into Davinci wide gamut intermediate. You could turn off your film profiles. You could turn off your print. You could turn off all these elements, and maybe you could just add overscans on individual clips, and you can. So that's a really cool. Another way you can use overscans like this is you could add them on individual clips. Say you wanted a 16 millimeter on this one, and then you wanted a, I don't know, let's just copy this node. Maybe say that you wanted a Super 8 on this one. There you go. You can add it that way. You have that there. So that's one way that you could work with the overscans. And then vignette. I should have talked about vignette earlier when I was doing my actual like contrast and all that, but let's get into it now. Vignette, I love Dehancer's vignette. Let's enable this. I think that it looks really, really good just like off the bat on the footage. Maybe I would back this off just a tad, the exposure, and maybe I would open up that size a little bit more. Turn this on and off. Yeah, that just creates a little bit more subtleness to it, but still, it just looks very good off the bat. And I love this vignette. Other cool things that you have at your disposal here in Dehancer is false color. False color is really great because it allows you to see where things like skin tone and all that are falling. I wouldn't turn on false color and maybe start messing with things in here to get it to where you want to. I mean, you could, but this would be something that maybe I would turn on my false color and go back into my group clip just to double check my exposure in my primary wheels. But you have that option, really great option. And the other thing that I like about Dehancer too is that you can tone down your look. You can kind of dial it in on this total impact slider on the output section. And that's just a really great feature. Maybe you get to the end of it and you're like, oh, I think I pushed it maybe a little bit too much, but I still like overall what it's doing. Maybe you could dial that back or something like that. So a really great option to have. So yeah, that's kind of the walkthrough of Dehancer overall. I did really quickly want to look at some black and white stuff just because I feel like that's becoming a lot more popular in the wedding film world. And so let's look here. I really love this, I believe that's Ilford XP2 Super 400. I think this is a very pretty black and white look. Maybe what I would do here is I would go into my print and maybe I would knock down exposure this way. Maybe I'd knock down the exposure some, and maybe I would I could knock down the tonal contrast here. It's working some, but maybe I would go here to my black point and I would open that up some more. There. Yeah, maybe just opening up that some more. But really a huge fan of this black and white look. Yeah, and then especially this mixed with the overscan, I think you could really create, like say we did like the Ultra 16, like that feels very vintage, but yet it feels like vintage, but at the same time it has like a very modern look to it, which I like. Yeah. So super cool. You can do so much in Dehancer. It's just really, it really is an awesome plugin, especially for those who want to have, you know, maybe a more filmic look to their image instead of something that's maybe like the traditional bright and airy or like dark and moody that you can tell is like really strong digital. So yeah. Let's go back to our Kodak Vision 350D. So yeah, basically that's the overview of Dehancer. I think that it's a plugin that you will find so much joy in using because it really will open up a lot of possibilities for you to create some very filmic looks. And I think that this is a really great plugin, especially for photo video teams, to really have your footage and your photos matching up really well. And Dehancer just does such a great job of giving you the tools to dial everything in. So I would definitely recommend this purchase for sure for photo video teams, but just for anybody doing videography, like this plugin's awesome. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed our deep dive into Dehancer and saw just how powerful this tool can be for wedding filmmakers. If you're ready to elevate your color grading to the next level and create those dreamy film-inspired looks, Dehancer has your back. Don't forget to check out Dehancer through the affiliate link in the description below. Not only will that give you access to this fantastic software, but you can use milestone code 10 to snag a 10% discount. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and ring that bell for notifications on upcoming tips, tricks, and tools for wedding filmmakers. We'd love to keep this community growing. Thanks for watching, and I can't wait to see how you use Dehancer in your wedding films, and we'll catch you in the next video.